Let's decide the worst year in the Legend of Zelda business here, Al. So, our contenders for the absolute worst year in this business are 1994, when Zelda's Adventure comes out. That is a contender. 1997 slash 1996, which I guess are technically 2 years, so we'll count
They're
those
lumped
together
together.
though. Those nothing comes out in those years. Like literally nothing. 2010, we've got the decline of the Zelda, or the bottoming out of the Zelda series with the Skyward Sword debacle, and of course 2022, which we just discussed. So those are the bottom 5 years in the Zelda series. Let's rank them according to how we feel. And I might suggest that of all of these years, I find 1994 with Zelda's Adventure the least offensive.
What, the least offensive?
So I would rank it at number five, like the fifth worst year of the five.
Okay.
What do you think?
Okay. Yeah, it's not that offensive. It's the times. So like for the 90 years,
Yeah.
I'm like it's just the times of what it is. Like Zelda's Adventure was kind of like a sad excuse of something that came out, so it's not like the most horrible thing in the world.
I would
I don't know if
also
I don't know if it's just because that was 20 something years ago and it's not as
not as like
fresh.
fresh, yeah. Well, because I would also say the same thing about 97 and 96.
Yeah, exactly.
I would rank those 4 and 3 respectively. So it's really between
Okay.
2022 and 2010 is the worst years in the
Okay.
series. And
Yeah.
I think there's cases for both. There's
I think
definitely
there is
cases
too.
for both.
Yeah. Whew, you know what? It's hard because part of me really just like out of spite wants to do 2022 as the top spot, just like because I just feel so spiteful right now. However, I feel like there's more hope in the amazingness of Tears of the Kingdom for next year than it was for Skyward Sword. Like if you saw that
Yeah,
horrible reveal of Skyward
you
Sword and
know,
then you were like,
I don't know. I don't know because Skyward Sword, like everything went wrong with that reveal,
hmm
but then like we just didn't have anything for 20 like Tears of the Kingdom. And I think that so Tears of the Kingdom and Skyward Sword are kind of like I feel like they're almost like kind of in a similar spot where they were like continuations of a formula that people were questioning, like what's the difference between this and the game that came before it. Like it doesn't look like there's a massive difference. And I would actually have to assume that both of those games are going to rely on their story to set them apart from what came before. I would assume. So it's
but
really
I
here's
guess.
here's my thing, Al. This is the last thing I'll say, and then I'll shut up so you can go.
Okay.
You know the old famous saying, it's better to remain silent and be thought an idiot rather than to open your mouth and prove it. So I feel like the year 2010 opened its mouth to prove it's an idiot, and I feel like 2022 remains silent and we all just think it's an idiot. So you
Yeah.
decide which is worse, and that's how this list will go.
Um, God, I feel so, and it's really hard too because like I was saying, 2011, 20, or no, 2012, 13, that's when I was really starting to get back into Zelda. So like I'm trying to imagining myself being more focused on Zelda and the news and what we're receiving back then and
Right.
how it would have felt to get to see that presentation and to see it flop so horribly versus
Oof.
how I feel now in that position. And it's hard to imagine it. I feel like 2010 is probably the worst at for the series as a whole, like unobjectively, but objectively I feel like 22 is the worst for me.
All right. Well, let's go with that. Let's just say that 2022 is the second worst year in the Zelda business, and 2010 was the bottoming out, the worst year in the series.
Poor Zelda.
Let's end on a positive note, though.
Yeah.
So we have one, two. You know what, Al? I'm gonna pull a little bit of an audible here. I'm just gonna go into business for myself. I'm gonna make 2019 an S year because I feel strongly about that. But clearly, it's gonna be ranked number three on our.
Okay.
Or
I
it's
mean,
how
whatever.
about like an A plus? I know we didn't do pluses, but I think that it is the best among the A's, right?
Okay.
So I'm just gonna call it an S, and 2019 is gonna be in the third. It's the third best year in the Zelda business ever. So it's really between 2017 with Breath of the Wild and 1998 with Ocarina of Time and Link's Awakening DX. So, arguably two of the greatest games of all time. coming out in that year.
Yeah.
But let me tell you my theory, and you can tell me if you agree with this.
Okay.
I think I am going to push for 2017 being the greatest year in the Zelda business because of where Nintendo was as a company, where their hardware was as a company, and how much was riding on Breath of the Wild to be a major, major success. Nintendo was like fine in the era of the N64. Like they were on the decline, but they weren't at rock bottom yet, right? Like they were still a powerhouse. And Ocarina of Time was going to come out and it was always going to do good business, and it was, it revolutionized gaming. There's no doubt about that. But with everything riding on Breath of the Wild, and for it to not only be a success, but like just hit the ball, run, catch it, go and hit it again out of the park like it did, I think that you kind of have to give it to 2017.
Okay.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah, no, you don't even have to fight that hard. If anybody knows me well, like when it comes to anything, I am a sucker for redemptions. And I think that was Nintendo's like redeeming, because if you think about 1998, it's when they were just like starting the series and they're like, let's keep building. Okay, cool. We got this amazing high because we've been building this.
Yeah.
But then they kind of skydived throughout the years. And then in 2017, it's like, it's the biggest it's ever been. Yes, Ocarina of Time was massive, but like this is like such a redeeming year for Nintendo, in my opinion, especially after the failures. I wouldn't call them failures, but like financially, I guess, of the other consoles.
Yeah.
So Redemptions, I'm a sucker for them. So I would definitely say 2017 is like the greatest year for Zelda.
Okay, well, I'm glad that we agree there. So the worst year in the Zelda business is 2010, followed closely by 2022. And, I feel like we've got two really clear worst years and two really clear best years. So that's kind of serendipitous. So,
I love looking at our list, though, and you clearly just see this wave.
Yeah, it waves and falls and rises.
And maybe that's like the good thing about it, though, because if it was always like super high, like I feel like we'd get bored.
Well, let me tell you this. If this was a Metroid list, there would be, like, every year that a game was not released would be an F. So.
Yikes.
At least we can have this conversation with Zelda.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. True.
Hey, everyone. If you enjoyed this clip and want to see more of the Zelda Cast, make sure to head over to your favorite podcast platform of choice and subscribe. There are over 200 episodes in the vault that will provide you with hundreds of hours of Zelda content for you to enjoy. You can listen to us when you're on a walk, fighting Ganon, trying to sleep, whatever. And if you want to see these shows as they happen, make sure to head over to twitch.tv/the Zelda Cast, where you can watch our beautiful faces talk about Zelda every single week. Don't miss out, and we'll see you next time.